You're on your phone, man. Yeah, you should wave. Because now I'm probably going to miss my light for you. Welcome back, I'm Tedward. Welcome to a little morning commute. We got to go into Waltham to Bond Group to drive an Austin Healey 3000. And I'm going to take this electric pickup truck. This is the GMC Sierra EV AT4. It's the off-roadified version of the Silverado and Sierra EV. If you got a Chevrolet, this would be the Trail Boss. It's got a 2-inch lift. It's currently charging right now on a level 2 charger, and it has a range of 478 miles. Let's pull it out and we'll talk about what this is and take it to work. I've carefully maneuvered it out of the garage, and now you can really get a taste of the scale. It is massive. It's very long. If you're street parking this in the city, boy, are you gonna need some serious space. But maneuverability wise, it's actually very easy because you get, I think, 8 degrees of rear steer. In the Hummer EV, you get 10 degrees. This one, being a GMC, also gets the ability to crab walk. However, the thing I like about this the most is that it's very cushy and comfortable and easy to live with. And I guess I've already locked myself out of it. Oh, I've got the key in my pocket, so we're good to go. So in the back, we have these massive, like, extended wheel-based size rear doors. If this was an S-Class or an A8 or something like that, this would be what that long wheelbase would look like. And tons of space. This is not the epitome of luxury in terms of seating, but you do get a ton of leg room. There's a million places for your stuff, your water bottles. I've used this for cycling, which has been really great because you got this massive tailgate, and it's the flexi gate thing, so it does all kinds of fun things and gives you a step. You can see that in the other video. This one also has the optional hard bed cover, which I really like because it doesn't flap around. I'm never wondering if it's secured properly. And if you want to play the Chevy Avalanche game, you can fold down those rear seats, remove that rear glass, and then you have a big open thing. So anyway, a morning commute video. I need to get the heck out of here and go film a car. So let's get this thing on the road and start going to work. Into reverse, we've got great cameras. You can set them up kind of however you'd like, but they are ultimately necessary because you can't see what's right behind the vehicle. You definitely need the ability to see in and around the front, the rear, and the sides. Off-roading, obviously, that's going to be very helpful. But look at this. Nice and easy. And then just for kicks, why don't we crab walk our way up the street just for fun? Why not? I always forget where it is. There we go. Crab walk. It does its animation. And then you can glide up the street like a weirdo. I still am like not fully sold on the use case for this, but I kind of don't care because it's fun. Plenty of juice to get out of the hole. And what I like about this is that electric cars, they don't need to, I'm glad to see a couple of chargers here just in case. Electric cars don't really need to warm up the way an internal combustion engine does. So I feel very little guilt if I've just left the house, I'm pulling into traffic, and I get on it. Like, I don't do that in my cars because I'm not gonna rev out and put serious load on a cold engine. In an electric vehicle, I feel like I can add a bit of juice and make that gap in traffic if I need to, especially if it's rush hour. So anyway, livability though. This isn't all about power, which we have plenty of, about 760 horsepower when you're in the like Thor's hammer mode or whatever, which you likely wouldn't do very often. So it's 725 horsepower, but that sounds like a lot. It's not a ton just because this thing weighs 8,800 pounds, maybe just a little more than that. So you need to recalibrate your brain for that kind of weight, because if you hear 700 horsepower, you're probably thinking like Hellcat, and that's more like a 4,000 pound operation. So double the weight, half the power to weight ratio. Anyway, let's get into this because we've got this great map. This is a Google built-in system. It's not Apple CarPlay. That's a bummer. I know there's people who are just like, that's fine, you don't need it, the system's fantastic. And they're not wrong, the system is very good. However, I have found it a bit cumbersome because maybe I just don't know how to set it up correctly, but I really just love the ease of Apple CarPlay and operating with she who shall not be named, because my phone will go off if I say her name, but our Apple Assistant, to read me text messages, allow me to text back, all that good stuff. And I'm just so used to it. I'm so used to using those things. You can, of course, add apps to this and you can put Waze on it, but I just like using my phone. It's just simpler. Maybe it's not better, but it's the way I like to do it. All right, so we can go into our search, voice only while driving, 85 Linden Street, Waltham, Massachusetts.
Okay, 85 Linden Street, Waltham. Let's go.
Boom. Look at that. Very quick. It's great on the voice recognition. I have to give it a lot of credit for that. And because it's all integrated, I can show up on my screen and do that whole thing. So I find that to be a really charming system. And I can change my screen so this can show me the map and navigation and just kind of table some of the other things that are slightly less necessary. This is good. These are nice things. We like this. But I still miss Apple CarPlay. Don't know what to tell you. And I know it's probably a deal breaker for a lot of people, but in the EV world, it's not actually that uncommon. Tesla does not have Apple CarPlay. I don't know if Rivian does, but still, it's not uncommon. And if you're looking for an EV, that may not be the thing that tips you over the edge one way or another. I just wish it had it. As someone who hates going through screen menus to get to everything, I think there's a reasonable mix of stuff. And the buttons down here, especially these piano keys, man, this is good. This is actually something I really loved about the Hummer EV. It makes it so easy. I can very quickly come down here, reference my HVAC control, say, I just want auto, give me the thing, and then I have touch screens for other little things. So let's say I want my ventilated seats on. Okay, I can hit that button with the touch screen. Not that big a deal because that graphic stays there and it's easy to interpret, it's easy to understand. A little regen on the braking. So far, I've done a lot more highway driving than rural slow back roads, but even on the highway I've kept the speeds pretty reasonable, under 75 miles per hour, closer to 70 honestly, because everything falls off up top, but I've been getting 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. If you're unfamiliar with the units of the EV world, we'll do a very quick lesson. So you've got a battery. That battery has a capacity the same as your fuel tank has a capacity in gallons. This has a capacity in kilowatt hours. So this is a 205 kilowatt hour battery. That's how much energy can be stored in this thing. So that's how many gallons of fuel. Your efficiency, instead of miles per gallon, is miles per kilowatt hour, right? So if you're doing 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour, you multiply that by how many, gallons or kilowatt hours you have in the tank, in the battery capacity, and that's your range. So if I was doing 2 miles per kilowatt hour on a 205 kilowatt hour battery, well, that's 410 miles. So that's how you can kind of quickly assess where you're at. So in the winter, you are going to be using more energy because it just doesn't work in the cold the same way. So you're not going to have the thermal capacity. You're not going to have the capacity that you would have on a lovely day like today where it's 65 degrees. These are ideal conditions. The other unit that you're going to want to know about is kilowatts, which is the power output or input. So if you are charging, if you're on a DC fast charger, you'd be charging in this at a maximum of 350 kilowatts. That also means that when you're on a level 2 charger, like I was back home, I'm only at about 10 kilowatts. So that just kind of tells you how much can go in at a time. That's the flow rate of energy in or out. So when I get on throttle, I'm currently using a flow rate of 45 kilowatts. If I get off throttle, it's regenning at about 30 kilowatts. So just helps you out a little bit to understand where we're at, because sometimes the units do matter and it's hard to kind of position yourself as someone who understands EVs. If you're just getting into the game or just getting curious and everyone's talking about all these things, you're like, wait, what should I know? Because most of the time, unfortunately, everyone's just talking about, oh, it only takes 10 minutes to get 100 miles on a DC fast charger when you're below 35% battery life or something, and it's just a little confusing and haphazard, and it doesn't necessarily tell you efficiency, because that just tells you how fast you can get juice into the battery. It doesn't tell you the efficiency of the use of the juice. So when you're looking at efficiency of EVs, which seemingly gets overlooked, that's something that's really important. You can have a smaller battery if you have more efficiency. So if this got 4 miles per kilowatt hour, well, then you could use half the battery and get the same range. Get it? Good. Now we're out on the highway and we can start exploiting some of the lovely features of this GM vehicle. So, set our cruise. We're at 74. We have hands-free driving with Super Cruise. The system is good. It's not perfect, and other systems are catching up. I was driving a Ford Expedition Max, not an EV, but the Blue Cruise system in that was so smooth and seamless, and it seemed a little more confident in keeping its lane and changing lanes and all that stuff than I had noticed in Super Cruise. So just an opinion, just what I thought. Drive a few of these systems, see what you like, but you know, here we are approaching slower traffic. The vehicle's slowing itself down, seemingly happy. This is a hands-free system, so I am allowed to take my hands off the wheel completely. I'm not just letting it run. Now, it may seem a little gimmicky, and you may think, well, why do I need this? I'll tell you, on a long drive or a miserable commute, sometimes this just takes a little bit of the edge off. I compare it to business class. Yes, you're on the same airplane, you're traveling the same distance, you're going to the same place as everybody in that plane, but if you were traveling business class versus coach, you seemingly get there a little more refreshed, and it's just a slightly easier trip, and when you get to your destination, you're like, hey man, let's hit it, let's go, let's do the thing we came here to do, instead of like, I need to go have a lie down. So it takes a little bit of the stress off of the situation. In addition to that, I find that if I said, hey, I want to have a little drink of water, well, if I want to reach back and do that, I can. I always have to keep my eyes on the road, but it just means that I've got this extra level of safety net keeping its eye on me and making sure that I'm not drifting into traffic and being one of those irresponsible people. The counterpoint to this type of technology is that it may encourage people to pay less attention. And this is why we see people texting in their cars all the time, because they're like, well, I'm fine, the car's safe, it's doing its thing, but maybe it does require your intervention at some point. Please just pay attention. Use this as a driver aid. Do not use it as a driverless car, because it is not a driverless car. You still absolutely need to be active and present in the experience. This truck is so well insulated from noise. There's very little NVH. I feel like the build quality is pretty dead on, because I haven't heard any vibrations and nasty stuff coming from the vehicle, which normally, if you were going to hear it, you would hear it in an EV, because there's no internal combustion engine to cover it up. Oh yes, the merging of champions. So that's what I like about this truck, is that as a commuter, it's insulated and quiet and luxurious. I think having these off-road tires, oddly, does it better than the 24-inch wheels with the skinny sidewalls. I just don't prefer that. I feel like it's a little more bumpy. I feel more stuff through my seat. I feel like in a corner, it's bouncing all around. But let's get off this highway and get through some of the junky, miserable stuff downtown in Waltham, and then we'll arrive at our destination. Look at the CRV. See, that's what texting and driving looks like. It's that, whoa, or they're just drunk. But it's a little early for that. 9:56. I don't know. Hopefully that's not the case. All right, that's a little tight, but let's see what Super Cruise does, buddy boy. Pretty reasonable. I feel like it's maybe keeping a little more. It's keeping the gap actually the way I would keep the gap, which is shocking. But man, I gotta say, driving in traffic with Super Cruise, I'm going to turn everything off right now just because I don't want it for this exit. Driving in traffic with the system is like really relaxing. It does take a little bit of the edge off. I feel like I'm less infuriated than I usually am while I'm making this miserable commute into Waltham. We're regenning. I don't have to touch the brakes. I'm using my paddle on the wheel. This wheel, though, it's too big. It makes me feel like a scale-sized human. I don't know, I have like average size hands. This wheel just makes me feel like I'm tiny or something. Like, there's something about it that is just a hint oversized. Even the way the buttons are, even the way this paddle is, like I've got to reach in just a little, like just a hair further than I want to. I feel like if this wheel was just a touch smaller, it would feel more natural. And it's okay if the wheel were smaller because it's like, you know, plenty of power assist and all that good stuff. A lesson in merging. Merge at the end of a lane closure and just zipper merge. It's very simple. We don't need to cut anybody off, but just use the available capacity. And if you want to be a nice guy, you go ahead and put in a blinker and you're good to go. I'm very excited when this interchange is going to be done. But honestly, you know when you've waited so long for something that it kind of loses its excitement? I don't know that I'm going to care when this actually is open and this bridge is not a decrepit piece of infrastructure that is on the brink of collapse with every semi-truck that goes over it. But hey, maybe I'll find some joy in it. I'm also going to take a slightly different route because if you're like me, you do the same commute over and over and over and over again. You sit in the same traffic. You see the same sights. You see the same potholes. At some point, you start to lose your mind and you dread that commute. It's not about the job you've got to do after the commute. It's just that commute. Like, I cannot stand driving through Main Street in Waltham anymore. It just kills me. I'm going to get off the highway early and take a slightly more circuitous route because I can't look at it. I can't look at it. Don't brake, you've got a lane. Don't brake, you've got a lane. Don't brake, you've got a lane. You can just go. You can do whatever you want. Oh my goodness. Electric vehicles have improved something significantly though, that we're gonna get off here. I can't deal with this. There's no gears. There's no gearing. Well, I guess if you have a Porsche or an Audi EV, maybe you have some gears. Okay, but besides those two-speed transmissions, you don't have gears, so you don't have to like run an engine at an awkward speed when you're driving a manual transmission in bumper-to-bumper traffic. Sometimes you're going slower than first gear, so you've got to play all these gymnastics of clutching in and clutching out and trying to keep everything smooth all the time. With the EV, it can do any speed, anytime. And that is a real luxury. I'm going to move over here just in case. Oh, okay. You know, so I like to move over at situations like this because if that lead car is taking a right and it's legal for him to take a right on red, who am I to be blocking that car from doing such? Because I'd be that guy wanting to go straight, blocking that guy who wants to go right. And that's just not helping the flow of traffic. So we'll tuck in over here. I don't know that that's the case right now, but I just my 2 cents. But it is really nice when you're in like bumper to bumper traffic and you can hold just bizarro speeds that a normal transmission with gears would be very cumbersome, or between gears, or slipping a torque converter, any of these kind of weird things. I'm also struggling occasionally with the mirrors on this vehicle. Seeing off the back of this can be kind of tricky sometimes. And I've got my blind spot monitoring, very helpful, but I'm feeling like maybe I rely on it slightly too much, or maybe I just need to fiddle with mirrors a little bit more than I already have. But my big fear of an accident with this truck isn't like careening into something with an 8,800 pound truck. It's like slightly touching or glancing a car because I didn't see them from the right. Yeah, look at this. We can just hold very awkward speeds. And it's totally fine. This is what relaxes me about electric vehicle driving. I am a good boy, and I like to really wait until I'm beyond the spot where the line is. I don't cross double yellows early just to get in my spot, because it almost never benefits you. And it just puts you at risk of being at fault for an accident when you go head on with somebody. I will take more cumbersome roads in an electric vehicle than I would in an ICE vehicle, because I don't worry about the start-stop. It just doesn't bother me whatsoever. There's something about not moving in an EV that feels more okay. I think we just go straight here. Yeah, all right. I gotta adjust on how to, when you're used to Waze and then you move to Google Maps. I know Google owns Waze, but there's a spacing, there's an angle, there's a way things move. Apple, Google, Waze, and if you're used to one, sometimes the scale doesn't make sense on the other. Just me? Okay. My sense of urgency and rush and road raginess does sort of go away with an electric vehicle. That's got to be worth something. I don't know that there's a great measuring or quantitative tool to assess that accurately. Maybe blood pressure, but I feel like my blood pressure is lower when I'm driving things like this. And normally when you're in like a big truck, there's like a bit of the masculine urge to roll coal and I'm in my truck, we're doing it. I don't get that in this. I do think this is the sedative you need in your daily life to get you from point A to B, and then focus on what you got to do at point B and not just worry about getting there. So this fella could go right on red, choosing not to. Do you beep? Do you just let it go? Now it's too late. Maybe in the Honda I would have given a little toot toot. In this, I'm just like, whatever, man. We're cool. Now you want it. Okay. Interesting. Well, we've legally done the job. Right now I'm just using, okay, you're on your phone, man. Yeah, you should wave. Because now I'm probably going to miss my light for you. Yeah, well, I'm going to take it anyway. But still, I don't like that. We're going to let the mailman go because, okay, he's letting us go. But I don't want to hit a postal worker. I feel like there's probably like extra penalties for that. I love this. We're just kind of regenning our way down the hill. You shouldn't angle your truck like that. If someone hits you from behind, you're just gonna go into me. I don't want to do that. It's like driving school 101. Teach you that on the first day. I haven't touched the pedals on that. I really love this paddle. This paddle. What an innovation. Great paddle. Great regen paddle. They've been doing it for a while. On the higher trim vehicles, they put, it's on a spring, so it's variable. On the lower trim vehicles, it's binary. It's just a click. And the click ramps up. So it's not just, it's you click and wait and it slowly ramps it up. Whereas with this, I feel like I just have so much control over it. It's really nice. Despite the length and size, the four-wheel steer makes this so maneuverable. So easy. Look at this. I didn't have to do the whole nightmare of Main Street Waltham. And I felt empowered to take a different route because even if it was awkward stop and go stuff, EVs make that kind of palatable. If I was in the Honda and my stick shift, not that I'm annoyed by a stick shift, I've been driving a stick since I was 16 years old, but sometimes there's just, you just take the route you know. But this allows me to explore things at weird speeds that would be between gears in that car, or because it's, Massachusetts, potholes everywhere, so I'm not so concerned about taking this down some nightmarish road. White GX gang. I would like to drive a fire truck. He's gonna get the light. There's almost never anybody there. That light is a rare one. Cranes are cool. Okay, it definitely thought we were like about to crash into that car, and it displayed all kinds of things and vibrated my seat. We're cool, man. Everything's cool. We're being safe. But now we have arrived. This is Bond Group, the Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts. So that's where we're at. A little morning commute in the big Sierra EV. I really like this truck. Philosophically, I disagree with a lot of its just existence. It's too big. What do we need 8,800 pounds for? It's kind of crazy. However, ooh, I wonder what's in the parking lot there. It's just a Range Rover. See, isn't that neat? You can like look at the picture of it. Thanks, Google. I think I disagree philosophically with its size and its weight, and it all comes down to the idea that it needs this 205 kilowatt hour battery. It just doesn't. Let's turn the vehicle off. Here, vehicle off. I also disagree with it not having a physical button. However, I will say, as someone who's living with this as a press car, it was nice to have a huge range because I didn't have to worry about charging it very much. I charged it once. I just put it in my garage, and well, it was not easy to put it in my garage, but I put it in my garage and I charged it nonetheless. I got enough for the day, and that's all you need. But I think philosophically, EVs should be a little more every other day charging or every 3-day charging, where you have a smaller battery. It's double what you need for your daily commute. So if you had a 100-mile daily commute and you've got a 200-mile range, well, like that's kind of what you need. And that can keep the weight down. That can keep the handling better, because what you sacrifice for this range is handling. It is a massive vehicle. And it really, just physics can only do so much. So you can't just like whip this thing around without squealing tires at relatively low speeds. But I do think the AT4 is the option I prefer right now on these Sierra or Silverado, if you want to talk Trail Boss variants, because I think having a bunch of sidewall, a little bit of a lift, it adds to the luxury of the truck, but we got to just take into consideration the size of what you're doing. So there are places in the United States, if you're in Montana, Wyoming, big states with big sprawling parking spots, and maybe you're just traversing hundreds of miles at a time to get to the local grocery store because you live out on the range. Well, this will probably do you just fine. Or maybe you're towing stuff and you just can't do it with the Rivian or the F-150 Lightning, or you're just not getting the range you want out of those vehicles because of the towing. I get it. This has a use case for sure. But if you're simply like, I just want an EV pickup truck, just really think about what do you need. And if you want this, fully go for it, because it pretty much rocks. It's luxurious. The seats are great. It's fun to drive. I love the rear wheel steering. Crab walk, bit of a gimmick. Okay with it though. Maybe if you find a legitimate use case for this, send me a message. I want to see you get out of Dodge with the crab walk that you could only have ever done with crab walk. Great. I'll listen. I digress. But just be aware that this is really big. And this Silverado right here is probably half the weight of that. So just think about what you're doing. Will it fit in your garage? Will it fit outside your apartment? Can you charge it? If you do charge it and you need that range all the time, how long is it going to take? Keep all these things in consideration, but do not panic, because this has so much battery, you'll never really have to panic. So that's going to do it for me. I'm going to go in there and get some work done. I need to photograph an Austin Healey 3000. So anyway, thank you for joining me on my morning commute in the 2026 GMC Sierra EV AT4. Thanks so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.